Good day. Welcome to Westchester Talk Radio. WestchesterTalkRadio.com. Produced by Sharc Creative. Made possible by Robertson Oil, the house that service built. By Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk. By also Hightower Westchester, matching your well to a fiduciary standard. And by Jaguar Land Rover of New Rochelle, Mount Kisco, and White Plains. Here on the Sports Report, we are joined by Fred Singleton. Fred Singleton is the meet director of the annual Glen D. Loucks Track and Field Games held at White Plains High School every May since back in the late 60s. Fred, what number games is this since we missed a year with the pandemic 2 years ago?
So May 12th, 13th, and 14th will mark the 54th annual Glen D. Loucks Games.
And also, too, the dates are different than usual. Generally, the meet is held on Mother's Day weekend, not this year.
So, yeah, it's a little misnomer in terms of us being held on Mother's Day weekend. It usually does fall into place that way. But Mother's Day is always the second Sunday in May, and Loucks is always the second Saturday in May. So what happened this year, May 1st was a Sunday, and so May 8th will be the second Sunday, so that's Mother's Day. But the first Saturday is May 7th, and the second Saturday is May 14th. So that's why I guess it happens once every 7 years or so, we are not in line with Mother's Day.
It's like a Loucks leap year, right?
Yeah, so to speak. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, is everything
like
on
that,
track to be held the way the games are normally held, or the way they take place? Because we had the cancellation 2 years ago due to COVID, and there was a vastly scaled down event a year ago. So is everything on track?
No pun intended. Yes, we are on track, and we're looking maybe to have one of the biggest meets we've ever had. We have teams coming from all over the place.
What happened a year ago? What was that meet like?
So a year ago, remember, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. We made an agreement with the school board, with the school athletic director, and also our superintendent, that it would be a great thing to have Loucks to bring back a spirit of competition after not having it in 2020. But clearly, we could not have people coming from all over the East Coast and Canada. And rightfully so, a lot of people weren't able to travel. So we just had a scaled down Loucks meet. I called it Loucks Light. And we just had some competition from the region. So where we normally have more than 3,000 athletes, we had about 900.
Mm-hmm. And how did everything proceed in 2021? Like a normal meet, maybe not the numbers that are always there, but still a good amount of kids and competitors came.
Yeah, it was weird. We had no spectators. No spectators were allowed. So it was odd looking up in the stands and seeing them virtually empty. We also had to limit the number of athletes we had on campus for good reason at one time. So with that, what we decided to do was to have sessions where we would have girls' events, we'd clear the arena, and then boys' events would follow about an hour later. So in doing that, we kept the numbers down on campus.
Did that affect the mentality of the competition at all? Because we keep hearing about this season with full arenas for basketball, for hockey, full baseball stadiums now, full football stadiums we had during the 2021 season, basically. And we heard about, well, this guy didn't have as good of a season this year when last year there weren't any fans or very few fans, and now the fans are back and he's not as good. Did that affect the competition at all, the lack of fans? Or does that really matter, that if you're on your game, it doesn't matter?
Oh, I think it certainly has an effect. You have very few of your teammates there cheering you on. But let's put this in perspective. These young men and women were coming from a season where there was were very few competitive outlets. And so they, were running, they had masks on. It was a totally different experience for them. And I think most of them were just happy to be in an environment where they could compete and run against, athletes from our region, win Loucks medals and trophies. So in that sense, it was a good thing for them. It really was.
Mm-hmm. So 54 years now running with the Loucks games. They started back in the late 60s at White Plains High School. White Plains has been the home of Loucks ever since. Describe the modern day games. You talked about the kids who come from all over. How far away are they coming from this year? How far north? How far west? How far south and southeast?
Okay, from the south, we have 3 teams coming from Virginia. Now, I'm speaking to you on Monday. Entries close tomorrow night, Tuesday, May 3rd. So there could be some changes to what I'm speaking to you about now. Every state in New England is represented. So that's in the north. We have a young lady coming to us from New Brunswick, from St. John High School. She ran as a freshman, and now she'll be running as a senior.
From one of the Canadian Maritime provinces.
Yes, yeah. From New Brunswick. And remember, she would not have been able to compete as a sophomore because there were no 2020 games, and 2021 was just limited to our region. So she was very happy to be able to come back, and she will be running the mile. Interesting enough, she will be running against a young lady who is coming to us to run the Loucks games from a distance further than anybody in Loucks games history. A young lady named Maya Batchelor is coming to us from Vancouver, British Columbia. So she is flying all the way across from the Pacific Ocean to us to run in the mile.
Well, how are you able to attract her and that kind of talent to come a good 6-7 hour flight from Vancouver?
So during the summer, I do my recruiting. The track season is over, and I just start looking at people who are returning. And as a lark, I said, you know what? We've never had anybody from Vancouver or British Columbia. I went on a site that ranks all the athletes from Canada, and you can do it by province. And so I saw a couple of athletes from British Columbia that I said, it's no way that they're going to come all the way here, but I'm going to try. And and it's a little different there because they're all listed as club athletes, not in their high school.
High school athletes, for example?
Correct. So runs for this club. So-and-so runs for that club. So we can't have club athletes run for us or unattached athletes. They have to run for their high school. So I saw on the website what club it was. I then got in touch with the club's director, who then got in touch with the mother. And the mother, Connie Batchelor, was nice enough to get back to me and said that they were very interested in coming. Now, you have to understand this is about July of last year, and I'm saying to myself, is this for real? It really coming from British Columbia? And I mean, she was definitely worthy. She's going to be one of the favorites in our race on Saturday, May 14th. So in doing so, we started up a dialogue, and she was aware of all the regulations that she could not run for the club. She had to run for her school. I needed permission from the school's principal in writing. She had to wear the school uniform. She said, we are well aware of that. We go down to the States quite often, and we know that those are the regulations, and we're willing to do all of that. I got an email from her. We've emailed back and forth maybe about 15 times. An email about 2 weeks ago. We've got our flights. We're staying at the Sonesta Hotel, and we're ready to go. So remember that name, Maya Batchelor, from Kitsilano High School in Vancouver, British Columbia.
So you start in the summer looking for student athletes to come, the best of the best who are returning for at least another year of high school. You keep tabs on them, I'm sure, during the school year to make sure that once they get that Loucks invite, that they're pretty much still up to snuff.
Oh, pretty much so. So I send out letters in December to maybe 200 athletes from, all over the place. We're bound by state regulations. So there's some states that we can not get athletes from because their state meet is over. So other than that, I'm pretty free for many of the states to pursue some of their athletes. And Missouri, Wisconsin, or some of the states, we haven't gotten anybody from those states yet, but I keep trying. And of course, our regular states in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland, not so much.
You've had Kentucky, Ohio through the years, right?
We have a couple of young ladies. One definite is coming from Kentucky, from Lexington Catholic. And another coach emailed me over the weekend interested in coming, and we'll make a decision hopefully by Tuesday because that's when entries close. Mm-hmm. So we could have 2 Kentuckians here. We haven't had anybody from Kentucky in about 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm. How do you handle a situation where you see an athlete who has great numbers first 3 years of high school, and then it's senior year, it's time for Loucks coming up, and may not be exactly what it was his or her first 3 years? Not terrible, but still not really up to Loucks quality and standards. How do you handle a situation like that? Does that athlete still get an invite? Maybe.
So the letters go out in December, and I'm constantly emailing people. I emailed people to come up to last week to see if they had their schedule free. And in the letter, it states that performances for acceptance and seating purposes are based on indoors from this year and early outdoors of this year. So those are really the 2 main factors. And the fact that Billy Jones from upstate New York or from Maine did something last year got our attention, but he or she, Billy, I guess could be a young lady too, we are basing where they are seated in the race and also their acceptance in the race on what happened this year.
Mm-hmm. So it's like somebody who hit 280 last year's batting 212 now may not get in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and it's all in writing. Coaches know that yes, so-and-so ran a 4:12 mile last year, but because he was hurt this year, his best effort is 4:33. So we're going to base it on the 4:33.
Mm-hmm. Now, Loucks has been compared to the Penn Relays. These are really the top 2 high school track events in the country. Penn Relays has the high school portion of the competition too. Can an athlete assume what they find at the Penn Relays, which happens first, it's kind of going to be the same way when they come to White Plains High School for Loucks?
So yes and no. It's going to be a high-level competition, which is true for both cases. Penn Relays has the ability to, since it's 2 weeks earlier than us, and that's earlier than a lot of the state meets around the South, they're able to get states that we can't get. They can get athletes from Florida because they haven't had their state meet yet. They can get athletes from Georgia. They can get athletes from California. They can, for us though, there's a lot of county meets that weekend around the country, a lot of state qualifiers. So those are mandatory, so we can't get those athletes during that time period. But the level of competition, there are years where our performances outdo the performances at the Penn Relays. And the former meet director, Dave Johnson, was a good friend of mine, and we would compare notes. And, I'd always tell him, that was a good time you guys had in the distance med, but our time was faster. So yeah, they can expect highly. Obviously, we don't have Franklin Field to be running in, but we do have beautiful White Plains High School facilities, and people often comment, especially first-time people to White Plains, just how beautiful our city and of our facilities are.
Are the facilities at White Plains as new as they are? Might be getting an upgrade, maybe?
Yes, they are. Frank Stefanelli, who is in charge of buildings and grounds, told us that within the next 2 years, they're going to redo the surface of the track, replace our track, which is now, at least 14, 15 years old, has had a lot of wear and tear. So yes, in the next couple of years, we're going to have a new facility.
Mm-hmm. And with regards to the Penn Relays, you talk about how they happen a bit earlier than Loucks, and because of that, you can get student athletes from states that aren't really available to come in early May. Is it possible to move Loucks up a bit earlier to get the Georgias, the Californias, the Floridas, et cetera, or you can't really predict on an outdoor track meet in New York State in, let's say, the month of March? You can't really say we're going to do it this weekend and know that it's going to happen.
Sure, we could consider that, but what would happen is by moving the meet earlier, we would lose some of the schools that already are attending because they might have another obligation that weekend. So let's say we decided to go the weekend after Penn Relays. Well, there's established meets around all these states that teams, track coaches are people of habit, and they're used to the weekend before Loucks going to the Somers Lions Invitational. So, they're going to go there as opposed to, Loucks has moved. We would lose. I think we would lose as many as we would gain because coaches have obligations to other track meets.
And you run the risk of bad weather much more in March than you do in May, too, which could really around things. Yeah.
March would be much too early. Would be
even if you did it in early April, that's a crapshoot, I think, nowadays at that point, too, with global warming and winters lasting later and summers then lasting later into the fall. It's sort of like you got to kind of keep it where it is for weather purposes, too.
Yeah. Plus, we have bad enough time in May with the weather, with the rain and everything
I was
else.
about to bring that up. A Loucks tradition is that it rains on Saturday. My question is, with the meet moving a week further back this year, let's see, might it rain on the Saturday of Loucks this year, too?
Well, I've already looked, long-term prediction, and, they have like 24% chance of rain. So I'm saying, why can't it be like 75 degrees and sunny? Mm-hmm. So we'll see. The weather people, they don't always get it exactly right the day before. Right. So let alone
they have to put on a show is what it comes down to. So that's a crapshoot too about getting it right when it comes to weather. I remember a few years ago when I came on a Saturday, I got out of my car and I felt a raindrop, and I happened to pull my cell phone out at the exact time, and I happened to realize what time it was. So I went up in the booth with Chuck Stogel and the crew up there, and then a little over an hour later, we got the all clear. We can get back on the track. The rain delay is over. So somebody said, what was the official start time of the rain delay? I said, wait, I got hit with a raindrop when I got out of my car as I pulled my cell phone out and happened to notice what time it was, 4:07. There you go. So they logged 4:07. And
there you go.
It's like clockwork. It's going to rain. And when I got out of the car, in one step, I got hit with the first raindrop. I said, there you go. I arrived and the rain came. So
that's good timing. But, you never know. And, second weekend in May is warm enough for thunderstorms.
Right.
And and cold enough for cold rain some other weekends. So, if we can get by with an hour of rain, that's not overbearing, then, a shower here and there, then that's fine. But of course, I'm hoping for blue skies, 70 degrees, and good weather.
Fred Singleton, Meet Director, Glenn D. Loucks Track and Field Games, 54th Annual at White Plains High School, Thursday through Saturday, May 12th through 14th, 2022. Fred Singleton, when it comes to weather, when it comes to rain, when a track athlete sees some precipitation coming down or knew it came down a few hours before their time on the track, how does that possibly affect that athlete mentally?
Well, I tell our kids at White Plains High School, look, it's not just raining in your lane. It's raining for everybody. So everybody has to deal with these conditions. Certain events, it's clearly, more detrimental, high jumping, pole vaulting, throwing a disc the discus where you're spinning, shot put where you're spinning, long and triple jumps, steeplechase, hurdles where you're actually going off the ground. So it could be depending on the rain and the frequency and the level of it. It can certainly cause more problems mentally and, of course, physically in terms of the running events, other running events. You just gotta, no pun intended, you gotta soak it up and just go with it. That's all.
Who are the key athletes this year besides the young lady from Vancouver that we should be looking at?
Wow. So I don't have my list in front of me, but there are some outstanding athletes, not only from our area, but coming from Virginia. We have plenty of state champions. We have nationally ranked athletes, both boys and girls, coming from all over the place. There are going to be some tremendous races. I mean, I should say potential for some tremendous races. It is possibly going to be our largest meet we've had ever, but certainly in the last 10 years. There are, and again, entries don't close until tomorrow night. So every time I look up, there's another team that's coming. It's going to be probably 220 schools and probably 350 teams. A team like White Plains High School is one school, but it has a boys and a girls team, so that's two teams. So 220 teams, 220 schools usually translates to about 350 teams. So we're going to be, I'm getting emails by the minute because the deadline is coming. It's going to be big meet and a lot of great athletes.
I have a young cousin on Long Island. His name is Ezra Johnson. He's at Shoreham-Wading River High. I know Shoreham-Wading River comes sometimes. I had not seen them the last time that I looked on the list, but at a family event a few weeks back, he told me he's running track this year. Finally, he's sophomore at Shoreham-Wading River. So he's in 5 events. He's running some sprints, some hurdles, even a little distance too. And I said, do you know about the Loucks games? And he knew all about it at the age of 15, basically. And he was hoping Shoreham-Wading River would come and hopefully he'd get a chance to take part. So I told him, and this is what Loucks is about. As I told him, I said, if you come and you're out there on the track, you have to make sure you do it up so good that I can go around and tell everybody, hey, that's my cousin out there. So no, I will. I said, all right, I'm going to hold you to that, but we got to work on your coach first and your AD, the athletic director.
They're on the list to come. Now, I don't know who they're bringing, but they're on the list.
So they're on the list now. Okay, they made it. All right. Yeah, I told him, go talk to your AD, and if I need to talk to him, let me know. And I don't want to say twist the screws a bit, but just give them a gentle reminder to get in touch with the Loucks committee and with Fred Singleton and make sure that they come, which they will. So I'll have to check to see if Ezra Johnson will be taking part. As a sophomore, too, he may not right away unless he just totally stands out because, as you know, with coaches, sometimes they like to give the props to the upperclassmen. Now, the Loucks games takes a lot of money to run every year. We talked with Treasurer Dana Comfort a couple of weeks ago. Talk a little more about the kind of funding that's needed.
So we are always looking for people to make donations. And if they go to our website, www.theloucksgames.org, right there, as soon as you open it up, you can see a link that says, do you want to donate to the Loucks Games? The meet costs a lot of money to run. We have been very fortunate to have a lot of great sponsors, people who send as little as $25 up to someone who just recently gave us a $10,000 donation. So the meet costs a lot of money. Our trophies and medals alone cost close to $25,000. So we are always in need for somebody to help us out, and we really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And we do get a lot of corporations around the lower Westchester area, especially, that take part in what we do. Always
sure, and it doesn't have to be thousands of dollars. $25 here and there adds up, and so anybody who can help us out, go to www.theloucksgames.org, and you'll see the link right there.
Mm-hmm. And for anything about Loucks, that is the website to go to. Fred Singleton, for any last-minute entrants who would like to take part, what should they do?
So if you're talking about spectators, they can just show up. The meet starts on Thursday, May 12th, and starts at 4 o'clock. On Friday, the meet starts at 4:30. And on Saturday morning, there's a 9 o'clock start. However, anybody who is a road racer and wants to get into a very flat 5K race, 8 o'clock in the morning, you can sign up on our website, that same website I mentioned before, and they can get on and they can get into the race. Thursday evening, we also have a Masters Mile for anybody who's interested in running the mile over age 30, and we'd love to have you.
Mm-hmm. And also for any last-minute schools, any coaches, athletic directors who say on the final day, at the final moment, I do want to take part in Loucks, what can they do? Just get in touch with you?
Yes, they got to get in touch with me by Tuesday. Well, they have to declare their entry and enter their athletes by Tuesday, the 3rd at 11:50 p.m. After that, entries are closed.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gotten just about,
We're right at the deadline, right there.
You
never know last moment who might say, you know what, we are going to go to Loucks this year.
John, I'm going to get off of this interview. I'm going to look afterwards, and I guarantee there'll be 2 teams that have entered, at least 2 teams who will have entered since you and I started talking.
And I'm sure a number more by the time business comes to an end, entries come to an end, where you can enter in the final moments tomorrow night on Tuesday night.
Yes. Most of the local teams are in. So, there's just a couple.
Sometimes for a team a bit farther away, it takes a little extra prodding, I guess, to just make sure that they come or make that decision to come too.
John, you'd be surprised. They're usually the earliest. They want to take care of,
yeah,
they usually want to take care of business and know ahead of time. They're worried, especially if it's their first time. I want to make sure we do this right. I'm hearing from those people back in. Entries opened on March 1st, and a couple of teams were in on March 1st and 2nd. They want to just make sure they get everything done correctly. So you'd be surprised how, but you're also correct. Some of the further away teams are also at this moment stumbling through the process and trying to get through, which isn't complicated, but especially if it's your first time, you want to make sure you get it right.
And by the way, how many years have you been meet director now?
So this is my 22nd year as the meet director of the Loucks.
That's what I thought. I wanted you to say that instead of me, in case I was wrong. Yeah.
So and I'm happy to do. I love doing it, and this is the time period where I say to my wife Margot, okay, I got to. She knows that I'm running around doing things and on the computer constantly, and she's been great about it. So.
And the people who make it happen, the Loucks committee up top there, you and Dan Woodard, along with Amy Leppy and so many more that come together from around the community to make it happen every year, too. Fred Singleton, we thank you for joining us this year on Westchester Talk Radio to talk up the Loucks Games 54th edition, Glendy Loucks track and field event at White Plains High School, Thursday through Saturday, May 12th through 14th, highlighting this country's and this hemisphere's top track and field, the student athletes, as we do every year. And the game's back in full swing this year after a COVID hiatus in 2020 and a scaled down event 2021. won a year ago due to COVID concerns. To Fred Singleton, all the best. We'll see you out there on the track.
Thank you. And one more shout out to my daughter, Amanda, who will be getting married in July. So this is and I have my class reunion in June. So it's a very busy 3 months. And my daughter, Amanda, and her fiance, John Grogan, will be getting married soon. And we're looking forward to it. So,
and congratulations.
Thank you.
All the best on that, too. Thank you. Fred Singleton, much appreciated here on Westchester Talk Radio, the Sports Report. I'm John Marino, produced by Sharc Creative, made possible by Robeson Oil, the house that service built by Michael Labriola, landscape design and construction of Armonk, by Hightower Westchester, managing your wealth through a fiduciary standard, and by Land Rover, Jaguar Land Rover. They are located in New Rochelle, White Plains, and Mount Kisco. Catch all of our Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, and Dutchess, Orange, and Fairfield County Talk Radio programming on our YouTube channel, Sharc Creative YouTube. We have an app now. Take it with us 24/7, anywhere and everywhere you go. Download it at Westchester Talk. That's what it's called. And all of it brought to you by Sharc Creative.